Okay. Hope you are able to see the screen. In the last class,
Yes, sir.
in the last class, uh, we dealt with the one of the complex tissue that is xylem. Now today we will look into the other complex tissue. It is phloem. So here, phloem in the sense when we talk about phloem is as I have said you, phloem is another complex tissue which helps in translocation of food. That is the main conduction of food. Now, coming to the meaning of phloem, the phloem is derived from a word called phlois. In the sense, the meaning of phlois is inner bark. Means it is located inside the stem and root and other parts in the vascular tissue. So it is considered as one of the. We have two barks. The outer barks we will see, and this phloem is called as inner bark. Let us first of all, as I mentioned in the xylem, except the parenchyma cell, the rest of the cells of the xylem tissue are dead. But when we come to the phloem in general is a living tissue. Phloem comes under living tissue. The cells which are present in the phloem are of living. So that's why this is also called living conducting tissue. Even xylem also helps for the conduction of water and minerals. But the thing is, xylem don't consider as living. So the living conducting tissue present in the plant is none other than phloem. Means the components of the phloem are in general made up of living cells. We can also refer phloem in another with another name called bast. So bast is a technical term which we use for the phloem. So please remember, bast is the term which we can also use instead of phloem. So that means that bast is nothing but it's a phloem. So now let us look into the elements which are present in the phloem. So now you are able to see the diagram in the picture which shows there are four elements present in phloem. Four elements are present in the phloem. You can say they are so this is one. Sieve is one element, that is sieve tube is one element. Companion cells is another element. Phloem parenchyma is another element. And along with the phloem parenchyma, generally you will also see the presence of fibers, which was not shown here, but they also present. The fourth component is phloem sclerenchyma of phloem fibers. Means you can categorize the elements of phloem into four, that is, one is sieve tube, second one companion cells, phloem parenchyma. So please transfer phloem here. Again phloem sclerenchyma. The phloem sclerenchyma is also referred as phloem fibers. So phloem fibers and phloem sclerenchyma are basically same structures. They are basically same structures. Let us in details look into the different elements of the phloem. Are you able to hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Now let us
Yes, sir.
look into the different components of the phloem. Now here, first one is sieve tube. So what you are able to see, this structure is in general called a sieve tube. Sieve tubes are basically, they are elongated. They are elongated, living conducting channels. They are living in nature and conducting tubes or channels. So the thing is that uh, you can compare these sieve tubes in phloem with the tracheids and vessels in the case of xylem. But the main difference between the tracheids and vessels with the sieve tube, tracheids and vessels are dead conducting tubes. But whereas sieve tube is a living conducting tube. That is the main difference between tracheids, vessels with sieve tubes. So, as I earlier said, uh, the phloem itself is a living conducting tissue. Now let us look into the sieve tube. The sieve tube is in general formed from union of many small cells called as sieve cells. Means the sieve tube is formed from large number of, so involvement of large number of thin walled sieve tube cells. Means by the union of many sieve tube cells, a sieve tube is formed. Okay, the sieve tube is formed by the union of many small thin walled sieve tube cells. Means they are placed one above another. They are placed one above another and they form. You can say, uh, let me give you a different. You are able to see this demarcation with a green color. So this structure, what I am drawing is a sieve tube cell. Means such small thin sieve tube cells united at the end to end. So you will have below this one more sieve tube cells will be there. Above this one more sieve tube, see here you also have another, side by you have another sieve tubes. Means This end-to-end cell union of sieve tube cells will form a big sieve tube. Similarly, here also, these sieve tube cells end-to-end unite to form big, long sieve tube cells. So that is how normally sieve tube cells are formed by the union of smaller sieve tube cells. Big sieve tubes or conducting elements are formed from union of end to end in a linear fashion by sieve tube cells. So that is how normally a sieve tube is formed. Mm, if you just look into the transverse section, what I can say, uh, the transfer end walls between adjacent sieve tube cells. Now you just imagine, mm, I'm just erasing this sieve tube cell. Yeah, now you can say. Here, this is the end wall of sieve tube and this is also end wall of sieve tube. Means this end transverse wall of sieve tube cells. So these are the ends of sieve tube transfer walls. They are in general have some perforated, means they have some pores. So you can see that these are the, if I say perforations, how they look. Suppose this is the end wall. So the end wall will have small holes. The holes are in general called perforations. These are called as perforations. So the end wall of sieve tube cells, which are transverse end wall of sieve tube cells, will have perforations. These perforation containing end walls are in general called sieve plate. We call this as a sieve plate. So sieve plate is nothing but uh, the end walls of sieve tube cells will have perforations, and these perforated end walls we generally call sieve plates. Now, sieve tubes, when we see sieve tubes basically they have vacuolated cytoplasm, they have vacuolated cytoplasm. Initially, when they take birth, nucleus is present during formation of sieve tube cell, but later enucleated. This is very important point. Means the nucleus is removed from the sieve tube cells. But when it forms sieve tube cells, you can see presence of nucleus, but in this diagram there is no nucleus. Means later, soon after the formation of tube cell, the nucleus is removed. That is what we call it as a nucleus is enucleated. Now you can see these yellow structures. You are able to see yellow structures, cytoplasmic strands are distributed from the end walls, from one end wall to another end wall. These yellowish structure, we generally call it as cytoplasmic strands. We call these as cytoplasmic strands. Let me drag that. They are called, uh, these structures are called cytoplasmic strands. Cytoplasmic strands are in general present end-to-end transverse end walls in a sieve tube cells. Those means we can see the extension of cytoplasmic strands from the one sieve plate to another sieve plate. So these are in general regarding the structural description of sieve tube. Now we'll move to the second element of the phloem, which is called as companion cells. Okay, these pink structure cells, which we are able to see in the diagram, which having a prominent nucleus, are in general we call as companion cells. Companion cells are always present beside the tube cell, the sieve tube cells. Now let us describe what about the companion cells. They are thin walled. They are very thin walled, which lie sides of sieve tube. Just I have said it, the companion cells they lie beside sieve tube cells. They just lie beside sieve tube cells. In general, when we talk about, they are in general connected to the sieve tube very closely, and it is said that sieve tube cell and companion cells are considered as sister cells. Sister cells in the sense these two, sieve tube cell as well as companion cell, both are formed from same mother initial. That's why we call these two as sister cells. Don't forget, this is very very important. Means companion cell and sieve tube cells are sister cells as they develop from the same mother cell. Means in the sense, imagine this is the initial mother cell which gives. Now this cell divide forms this cell as sieve tube cell and this cell as companion cells. That's why both are very closely intact. They are located besides each other. In this way they are considered to be the most important elements in the phloem, and they are considered as one kind of sister cells. Now coming to the what is the role that the phloem plays. Now let us, when we look into the structure of companion cells will have dense cytoplasm. They have very high central dense cytoplasm. Not only that, they also have central prominent nucleus. Their nucleus is located at the center and it is prominent. The main function of uh, companion cells, it is not much clear regarding the function, but people are in a opinion the companion cells helps in maintaining. So the companion cell helps maintaining a proper pressure gradient in sieve tubes for conduction of fluid. So that is in general the main function of companion cell. Companion cells helps in general. They maintain a proper pressure gradient in the sieve tube cells for conduction of food material. Now here, as I mentioned, the sieve tube cells are living. But the thing is, they don't have nucleus. Even then, the nucleus is removed from the sieve tube cell. We consider it as living because the activities of the sieve tube cells are controlled by the nucleus of companion cells, as these two different elements formed from the same mother cell. So this is you need to know, because as we said in the sieve tube cells there is no nucleus. Late means by birth, uh, during the birth it has nucleus, but soon after the birth, during the maturation process, the nucleus is removed from the sieve tube cells. But still, even after removal of nucleus also we consider it as a living, because the activities which are taking place inside the sieve tube cells are under the control of companion cell nucleus. This is very important. Mm, The activity of sieve tube cell are under the control of companion cell nucleus. So this is in general one of the important feature. So with this we have just completed the second component, which is called as companion cells. Now let us move to the third component of the uh, phloem tissue, that is in general call it as phloem parenchyma. The phloem parenchyma is also called as a bast parenchyma. As I mentioned, the phloem can be also called as a bast. So it is also called as a bast parenchyma. So you can see very clearly these green cells which are located besides the companion cells with nucleus are in general considered as phloem parenchyma. So this is phloem parenchyma. Now, phloem parenchyma cells are thin-walled, long means they are thin-walled, and they also considered as a living, as we all know that parenchyma is a living simple tissue. Wherever it is present, it is in living condition only. It has two functions, as we see in the case of xylem. Whatever the xylem parenchyma does, similarly the phloem parenchyma also involved in two functions. One is storage, another one is conduction of food. One is storage, another one is conduction of food, are the two main important functions done by the. So this conduction of food basically in whatever the lateral conduction we say. So slow lateral conduction of food is under the control of phloem parenchyma. Now coming to the last element of the phloem, which was not included in the diagram, but it is still a element of phloem tissue, that is phloem fibers. We also call these phloem fibers as bast fibers. We can also consider it as a bast fibers. We all know that the sclerenchyma, wherever it is present, it is non-living, means dead mechanical tissue, which we say. So non-living component of the phloem is phloem fibers. They have very thick lignified walls and they are elongated. They are elongated. We all know that they are elongated, spindle shaped, tapered ends with narrow lumen. That is how normally where you can imaginary draw like this. So it has thick lignified walls like this. How it looks in the case of xylem. Sclerenchyma, similarly, it is present even in the plant. The main function of this phloem fiber is to provide mm, mechanical strength to the phloem. So this is in the answer regarding the phloem fibers. Now let me talk about the function of phloem tissue. So we all know that the primary function of phloem tissue is in general conduction of food. Yes, food. So means we all know that the phloem conducts organic food throughout the plant. This is what we can call it as a translocation of organic food materials. Uh, Unlike xylem, as I mentioned, the conduction of water is unidirectional. It always takes from the roots to shoot or aerial parts of the plant. This is the conduction of water and minerals. But whereas the phloem conduction of food is in general bidirectional, means you can see from the roots to shoot, and you can also see conduction of food from the shoot to root. Even the conduction is also seen in lateral ways. So in multiple direction you will see the conduction of food with the help of phloem. That is another very important thing. Now coming to the commercially important, the fibers are phloem, means as I have mentioned, the fibers, the sclerenchyma which is present in the phloem is very commercially important. The phloem fibers from the plant jute, hemp, and flask are commercially used for preparation of various products like the gunny bags and other materials will be produced from the phloem sclerenchyma or phloem fibers only. This sense in general, what do you call the function of phloem? So let us we compare today the xylem with the phloem. Let us take a comparison with the xylem and phloem. Now let us take first property conduction. So in the xylem, the conduction is water and minerals. So water and minerals are conducted with the help of xylem, and here food, organic food is in general conducted. If you take the direction of conduction, the direction of conduction of water and minerals in xylem is unidirectional. So it is by. Now coming to the channels present in them. So conducting channels in the xylem are tracheids and vessels, whereas in the phloem the channels are sieve tubes. And when we see the components present in the both the tissues, so components like xylem consists of tracheid, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. Whereas here, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. So, next, dead living cells. Here, xylem except xylem parenchyma, all others are dead. Okay. Now here, in the case of phloem, except phloem fibers, all others are living. All others are living. So, next property, mechanical strength. So, in both the tissues, the xylem and phloem, the sclerenchyma provides mechanical support, but here the mechanical strength of xylem is more when compared with the phloem. It is mechanical strength provided by the phloem tissue to the plant is very less when it is compared to the xylem. So this ends the differences between the xylem tissue and phloem, and with this we have completed to the plant tissues. We have completed the plant tissue part, and I will give you today just a introduction classification to the animal tissues, and I will stop this particular today's online class. Now, as like plants, animal tissues are also specialized to perform some special functions. Specialized to perform some special functions. So, obviously, the working of an animal body is coordinated by tissues and organs formed from them. So, example, if you take breathing is due to the contraction and relaxation of certain muscles. In breathing, inhalation provides oxygen to the blood inside the lungs. Carbon dioxide contained blood passes into the air, passes into air to be exhaled. Means in the sense whatever you say. The blood is in general carries oxygen and food to all the cells, waste material and carbon dioxide also collected, and all these things are in general happens. Means here I just wanted to give you that blood, which is playing a key role in the exchange of gases and supply of nutrients and collection of waste material, is considered as one of the component of a connective tissue. So one of the component of a connective tissue. So one of the component of connective tissue in the sense this plays a major role. Similarly, the expansion and contractions of lungs is due to the muscles. Muscle is a kind of muscular tissue. On the basis of structure and function of the tissue, in animals, we have classified animal tissues into four types. On the basis of their structure and function, we classified animal tissues into four types. The first one is epithelial tissue. And second one is connective tissue. Third one, muscular tissue. And the fourth one is nervous tissue. So these are the four different types of tissues present in the animals, which helps to carry out various functions in the body with the coordination between the tissues and the organs of animal body. Now I am stopping it here. If anyone has any doubt, they can ask from today's topic. If you